system. Number of organs works together. Number of organs work together and functions, and does this respiratory function, right? Good. Before that, Dr. I wanted to give you one particular small. I wanted to have some answer from your side. Okay, thinking on that one, then later you can give me the answer. What is the main function of the respiratory system? The function of the respiratory system. Uh, when I open this chat box, you can type it later after completing this particular topic. Okay. But this respiratory system, we have many organs, many set of organs works. So this particular, many have joined, many are joining now. I enable to give admit. Good. Okay. This particular system has a passage, a respiratory passage or respiratory tract. Okay. That one starts from nasal cavity, oral cavity, something called here pharynx. Okay. Then epiglottis, larynx, trachea. You can see here all these track or the passage, air passage, they used to call air passage, start from the nasal cavity. That's nostrils. Sometimes we have two nostrils here. The air enters into the nasal cavity and enters the oral cavity here. The next portion of the oral cavity is called pharynx. Okay. Sometime we used to call that throat. Okay. It's a common word every time you use throat. The throat is in anatomical term they use pharynx. Down to this pharynx, the epiglottis. Epiglottis, sometime you can see that inside when you wide open your mouth. This one prevents the food to enter into the respiratory tract. Okay, that directs the food into the food pipe instead of entering into the wind pipe. That wind pipe. Okay, that's called trachea here. So after epiglottis, down there we have larynx. Larynx is a vocal cord, which creates sound. Okay, so these are the respiratory tract. But here in this picture, these are lungs. Okay, before that, you need to see further down how where the air travels. Okay, now you can see that this is called trachea. Trachea, otherwise, some trachea, it's a wind pipe. Okay, the air passes through the trachea, and this trachea divides into two parts. One left side lung, one right side lung, one branches out for the left side lung. They are called bronchi. Here you can see this, the bronchi. Okay, this bronchi further branches out inside. Further branches out inside. They are called bronchioles. Okay, they are called bronchioles. Now here, nasal cavity, then pharynx, then larynx. In between pharynx and larynx, we have one epiglottis that prevents the food to enter into the windpipe. Okay, this larynx is called vocal cord. That's the organ create the sound, be able to speak. No, then the continuation of the larynx is trachea. This is otherwise called windpipe. That windpipe divides into two. One goes to the left side, one goes to the right side. That branch is called bronchi. This bronchi further divides into bronchioles. Okay. These bronchioles, edge of these bronchioles, we have alveolar duct. Duct means that pipe. Okay, alveolar duct. The alveolar duct have the sac. That sac is called alveolar sac, or this particular whole part is called alveoli. Okay, this is a superficial space where finally the air enters here. In this part, what happens? The gaseous exchange takes place. Means oxygen comes in from the external air, and the carbon dioxide from the blood goes out to the external air. This is the place where the exchange takes place. Okay, that area is called alveoli. This alveoli is surrounded by number of capillaries. Already I told you number of capillaries. These capillaries comes from the pulmonary artery. You could remember the heart. Pulmonary artery gets opening at the right side of the ventricle takes the carbon dioxide rich blood and comes to the lungs, and that branches out into the smaller part as a capillary. This capillary surrounds here over the alveoli where the gaseous exchange takes place, so that this carbon dioxide rich blood becomes the oxygen rich blood. This is a common idea. Again, come from the beginning here. The nasal cavity is opening to air to enter and passes through the pharynx. Pharynx, otherwise called throat, and down there we have larynx. Larynx is the vocal cord. Then the continuation of the larynx is uh, trachea. The trachea branches out into bronchi, and this bronchi branches out many called bronchioles. On the edge of the bronchioles, we have alveolar duct. Duct means a tube, a small tube. You can see like grapes, no? Like grapes. This one is called alveoli. Once finally the air reaches here and the gaseous exchange takes place at this location. So respiratory tract or air pathway you have right from the nasal cavity to alveoli. Now we are going to talk about the lungs. Okay. This as air goes here finally reaches to the lungs. Okay. You should know about the lungs and its structure. Sometimes you should write it lung and its structure. Okay. So there is a right side lung and a left side lung here. Okay. So this right side lung has three lobes. Okay. Lobe means next slide I'll show you what is lobe here. Lobe means there are three lobes here. One is superior lobe or upper lobe. Superior means from the top. Okay. And middle lobe and inferior lobe. Three lobes. One, two, three. Okay. And in this left side lung has only two lobes. Remember, because of this accommodating the heart, naturally we have only two lobes here, but relatively smaller, relatively when compared with this right side. Okay, and here this divided into only two lobes. One is in superior and inferior here. Okay, so this is structure of the lungs here. Or you can say this is called lobe 1, 2, 3 here. So only one, two lobe, two lobes are in the left side. 1, 2, 3. Okay. This entire lung attached with the connective tissue called pleura. This pleura connecting or binding this lungs with the other structure like the thoracic cavity as well as the diaphragm. This diaphragm and the thoracic cavity or rib cage is binding with the uh, is lungs. Okay, that's that particular structure, a membrane structure is called pleura. Okay, good. Now we should move on to the mechanism of respiration. Okay, so on the outside you should understand what is respiration. Okay, respiration is the act of taking the external air into the lungs and expelling the same air outside. This is a simple mechanism. Okay, so the mechanism can be classified and can be further termed in different smaller terminology to make a little more clear understanding. Okay, the first word is inspiration. Okay, the act of inspiring and expiring air is the respiration. What is respiration? They may ask you what is respiration, or you should tell someone you should by a definition. Okay, respiration and the act of inspiring and expiring the air. Okay, inspiration means inhalation. Very simple to understand here. Expiration, inspiration, very same word. The inspiration is the same word what you use commonly we are using, but in this term, inspiration means inhalation of the air into the lungs. Second thing is once we inhaling the air, that the air once that the gaseous exchange takes place in the alveoli has to pushed out from the lungs. That action is called expiration. Clear? Right. This respiration, only these two things are sometimes used to call external respiration. Okay. What is respiration? If you go through the net or somewhere you find there are cellular respiration also. Respiration takes a place in the cellular level. That means Once the oxygen enters into the blood, that blood carries the oxygen, supplies the oxygen to the cell, where the cell has mitochondria, which receives the oxygen and produces the ATP. That is called cellular respiration. That particular respiration is called internal respiration. Okay, this inspiration and expiration they classify under external respiration or more clarification. Okay, but the respiration, it's external respiration takes place in the lungs, and the internal respiration takes place in the cellular level. Okay, so we are going to talk about the only in the external respiration and its mechanism. Okay, but here the physics students are there. Some physics students, they are very easily understand this mechanism. Very simple to understand here. Air always moves from higher gradient to the higher pressure gradient to the lower pressure gradient. You all very clear on that one. Okay, sometime you would have learned that in your school times, right? Now, what happens here? The air enters from the higher pressure area to lower pressure area. That means in the lungs area creates the negative pressure, atmospheric pressure. When compared to the atmospheric pressure is high, the pressure at the area of the lungs is low. So the atmospheric air enters into the lungs. Okay, what is the mechanism involved here? You should understand here. Okay, when the inspiration takes place, the high atmospheric pressure and low intrapulmonary pressure. They used to say the pressure at the lung and alveoli area. Okay, that is called intrapulmonary pressure. Good. So we move on to the next now. Good. During inspiration, means how the air enters into the lungs. Okay. The first thing here you could see here, even the older picture also you can see here. This is two lungs. These two lungs are attached or binding with the rib cage. That's with the rib cage. And bottom of this thing here you can find this muscle. This muscle is called diaphragm. Sometimes it is called respiratory muscle. Okay, this is a main muscle for respiration. Okay, this diaphragm. What happens? The diaphragm contracts. Contract means in downward action. It's pull it down here. Okay, contract. What happens? This is attached to the lungs and rib cage. Increase the volume of the thoracic chamber. Thoracic means this particular area is called thoracic cavity. Okay. Thoracic cavity that contains heart, lungs, and other vital organs. Okay, this thoracic region's area is increasing when this diaphragm contracts downward. Okay, and here you can find here this between the ribs we have one more muscles group of muscles works together. That muscle called external intercostal muscle. External intercostal muscle. This also contracts and lift the rib upward. Lift the rib upward. And the sternum. The sternum also lifted upward. This is called sternum. This release upward. This pulls down. This lift up so that the internal intrapulmonary area increase. The volume is increased. What happens? The pressure goes down. Okay, but in the atmospheric pressure is high. In the intrapulmonary area, pressure is low. What happens automatically? The air outside high atmospheric air enters into the nostrils and passes through this air passage and reaches to the alveoli. Okay? This is the function of the mechanism of the respiration. I mean, especially inspiration. Inspiration means inspiring air or inhaling the air into the lungs. Okay. So once the air enters into the lungs here, that equals the pressure which is outside the atmosphere. Okay. During that time, the gaseous exchange takes place at the alveoli level. Hope you understood that. Now we move on to the next. Right. What happens? The exhalation. Actually, exhalation is a passive process. Okay. Usually at normal, at rest, it is a passive process. Passive process here. We that simply that diaphragm recoiling to its normal state, and external intercostal muscle recoiling to the normal state, so that the area reduces, but already that lungs filled with a lot of air, so the pressure increases inside than the atmospheric pressure. Automatically that air inside expelled out from the lungs. Okay, it's a passive process. No active mechanism takes place at rest, when we at rest. Okay, but when we are working strenuously, like running for 5,000, running for 10,000, or running for 100 meters, so you need to take more air and you have to expel it quickly. So that time it become a active active process, that expiration. What happens that time? Automatically recoiling of the diaphragm as well as the external intercostal muscle, and here the internal intercostal muscle. There is another thing, another muscle groups between these ribs called internal intercostal muscle. You can see here internal intercostal muscle that shrinks the area between two ribs, so that also create more pressure inside. And abdominal muscle, this abdominal muscle. Okay, here here it is the diaphragm is there, and contracts downward. When it pushing out the air, it goes upward in this way. Okay, so what happens here? We have that abdominal muscle, rectus abdominis, oblique muscle. They all connected here. They also sometimes contracts when active process on. Okay, contracts now and create more pressure here. That's that causes the air to come out quickly from the lungs through the nasal cavity. Okay, so many ask from the yoga breathing techniques. They keep on asking the breathing technique. There is no breathing technique. Okay, just follow the breathing physiology here. Okay, breathing physiology is not we cannot change anything here. And the abdominal muscle contracts, automatically that pushes the diaphragm here to upward, that shrinks the area of the lungs, automatically that expel out the air. So sometimes some people are keep on asking question to the other yoga teachers when I watching sometime. When we are inhaling, we should contract the abdominal muscle. When you are exhaling, we have to increasing the abdomen. It is something wrong concept, misconception. So think and understand the physiology of the respiration, then you can say no need of worry about the breathing technique. Okay, good. Right. With that, we'll end up that respiratory tract, because time due to this time we have to make a little quicker. If you have any doubt, you can ask me now. Any doubts? Right. What is the function of the main function of the primary function of the respiratory system? If you know, just put it in the chat box. Only 1 minute I'll give you. And I'll play you on video also. Okay. Main function of the respiratory system. Mabla madam, please open the.
Yeah, already is open, sir. They can ask.
Yeah. Gaseous exchange, correct, but not exactly correct. Inhalation, exhalation, that's called respiration. Exchange of gas, almost close, but not exact answer. What here on what we one exchange of gases, inhalation and exhalation. Main function is exchange of gas. Respiratory system is network organs. Yes, it is very good description, Devi Bala. Respiratory system brings air into the body. Okay, that's called mechanism of respiration. Absorbs oxygen. Exact. You are talking about mechanism. Clear the waste. Exactly. But that's a very clue. Very close clue. Cleans waste gases. That's a very close. Karthik, olfactory resistance. Exactly. Small nose. That's a function of the nose. Okay, that's another function. Respiratory system never not includes the sensory things. Okay, that is related to brain. I mean nervous system. Or it can happen. You are very good. Somehow we have a background. Uh, cleans expiration. Right. Cleans. Someone says cleans. Okay, we'll stop that. I'll answer you. Okay, the purification of the blood. That is important function of the respiratory system. Purification. That means someone says no waste gases. Not don't think of waste gases. Main gas is carbon dioxide elimination. That's purifying the blood and oxygenation of the blood. This is important. Any way you can write it. Okay, purification or oxygenation or elimination of the carbon dioxide. The main or primary function. Okay, that answer should be very sharp here. Yeah, most of you have given a clear answer. Good, but this answer more precise, so people will understand that you know very well. Okay, good.
Sir, 1 second, sir.
Yes.
Elimination of carbon dioxide, right?
Elimination. This is all something you should understand. Okay, you want to? I'll play one more video. You can see that. Okay, then it is very clear. Very, I mean, an animated video. Easily you can understand. Stop typing. Okay, just listening to this. Okay, I try to play that. Can you able to see the screen, madam? Madam, that browser screen.
Yes, sir. We are able
Yeah.
to see.
Yeah.
Understand the process of breathing. In humans, the main organs responsible for respiration are present
Sir,
in the
video
thoracic
தெரியல, sir.
Sir,
cavity.
video is not visible, sir.
Video is not visible. Huh?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
sir. Yes. Yes.
Wait a
The
minute.
rib
I'll
cage
replay.
and dome-shaped fibers.
I'll replay it. Okay. Now able to see that browser.
Oh, no, sir. No.
No, sir.
Okay.
PowerPoint only we can see.
Okay. I'll change. Oh, okay. It's my mistake only. Sorry. Now.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Just if voice is not there, just inform me. Okay.
Okay.
Voice is coming. Able to listen the voice, madam?
No, sir. No.
No.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Little bit.
Now I think okay. Play it, sir.
Yes.
Respiratory system.
Okay.
Understand the process of breathing. In humans, the main organs responsible for respiration are present in the thoracic cavity.
Put it into full screen mode, sir.
In the thorax region, the rib cage and a dome-shaped fibrous
Yes.
tissue, known as the diaphragm, are observed. Present within the rib cage are the pleural membranes, which enclose the lungs. The right lung is divided into 3 lobes: the right superior, right middle, and the right inferior lobe.
Sir, full screen lo poda
The
mudiyuma,
lung is
please.
smaller and has only 2 lobes, the left superior and the left inferior lobe.
Please, sir.
Yes, madam.
Put it into full
Both
screen
the
mode,
lungs
sir.
are
Yes.
situated externally with small tubular bronchi, which unite and extend into the trachea. The trachea has incomplete C-shaped rings of cartilage, which prevent the tracheal wall from collapsing. The trachea leads into the pharynx, which is connected to the nostrils. As we breathe in air, the oxygen molecules enter the nostrils and travel downwards through the pharynx and trachea to finally reach the bronchi. From each bronchus, oxygen travels into the lungs. Within the lungs, the bronchus divides repeatedly to form bronchioles. Oxygen travels through these bronchioles and reaches the alveoli. each of which is surrounded by a network of capillaries. A section of one alveolus shows the presence of numerous alveolar chambers with pores. Blood containing RBCs is seen flowing through the capillaries. The oxygen molecules from the alveolus diffuse into the capillary and then get absorbed by the bluish-purple RBCs. This causes oxygenation of the RBCs, and a transition in their color from bluish-purple to red is observed. The blood moving into the alveolus contains RBCs and carbon dioxide molecules. These molecules are released into the alveolus. The carbon dioxide collects in the alveolar chamber. And then from the alveolus, it travels through the bronchioles into the bronchus, which finally reaches the trachea and is breathed out through the nostrils. So the process of breathing in air rich in oxygen is called inhalation. After the contraction of the muscular diaphragm, the lungs expand and the air rushes in, resulting in the inflation of the alveoli. During exhalation, the diaphragm moves up and the lungs contract. Thus, the alveoli deflate, causing the air to be forced out. This exhaled air is rich in carbon dioxide. This process of inhalation and exhalation is known as respiration, which is approximately 20 times per minute. Summary. In the thorax region, the rib cage and the diaphragm are observed, which play a vital role in respiration. Present within the rib cage are the pleural membranes, which enclose the lungs. The right lung consists of 3 lobes, while the left lung has only 2 lobes. Both the lungs are associated externally with bronchi, which unite and extend into the trachea. As we breathe, the oxygen molecules enter the nostrils and travel downwards through the pharynx and trachea to finally reach the bronchi. From each bronchus, oxygen travels into the lungs. In the lungs, the bronchus divides repeatedly to form bronchioles. Oxygen travels through these bronchioles and reaches the alveoli, each of which is surrounded by a network of capillaries. As blood flows through the capillaries, the oxygen molecules from the alveolus diffuse into the capillary. This causes oxygenation of the RBCs. The carbon dioxide molecules are released into the alveolus. They are collected in the alveolar chamber, and then from the alveolus, it travels through the bronchioles. Into the bronchus, which finally reaches the trachea and is breathed out through the nostrils.
Right. Do you have any doubt? You can ask me. Madam, please open the unmute, madam.
Yeah. You can ask.
I'm Vivekanandan.
Yes.
How much or what is the maximum capacity of lungs we are using for during normal breathing?
Okay.
During pranayama or something?
No, no, I understand. Okay, please confine yourself with the physiology here. Don't mix up with the yoga. Okay, that's first thing.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, don't mix up. Okay, I'm not into the yogic area. I'm not yogi art also. Very clear to you all. Okay, I'll talk about your question is very good. Okay, how the volume, total volume. Okay, there are different types of volume here. Okay, inspiratory volume, expiratory volume, reserve volume, total lung capacity, vital capacity. These are some technical terms used here. How much air enters here? Okay, so every breathing or every breathing, normal breathing, that is called tidal volume. But it is not inside in your syllabus, so that I couldn't touch that one. For as you asked this one, I can tell you. Okay, so normal breathe in, breathe out is called tidal volume. But tidal volume is approximately half liter, 500 ml. Okay,
Okay.
but heart, that lung has a huge capacity. More air can be inspired. Okay, normally we inspire only 500, but during strenuous activity, okay, during
Okay.
strenuous activity, which need more oxygen. Okay, so automatically our brain system, central nervous system, stimulating the lungs to inspire more air, expanding more. Okay, but other number of muscle groups works together to expand, quickly inhaling. Okay, that time nearly 3 liters of air goes. That is called inspiratory rate. Okay, during strenuous activity. But what you ask, yoga and pranayama, I don't know how deep you are breathing. Depends. Okay.
Yes, no problem. No problem.
Yeah, please ask the other yogic people, they would have say. But physiologically, there is no evidence what happens during this pranayama, the breathing techniques. Okay, it's called breathing technique here, but physiology is same. Whatever, whether you are in exercise or you are at rest or you are at yoga, I mean asanas, correct?
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So normal air, 500 ml during rest. Okay, that is called tidal volume. They used to call tidal volume.
Right, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Any other question? 20 times you are breathing. You could have, you could have, what I can say, you could have listened that word in that thing.
So the 20 times is the total respiration.
Normal breathing rate. That is called breathing, like heart rate. It is breathing rate. Okay.
Okay.
But in well-trained athlete or well-trained exercise, I mean, they involving in endurance activity, they breath rate will be less, like 15 or 14. But they inhaling every time more amount of air. That's called vital capacity. But I don't know about this pranayama people, whether their vital capacity high or not. There's no researchable evidence. You people have to do some research and you have to prove it. Any other doubt? So someone asked about the abdominal muscle contraction and relaxation. What happens to the breathing? Okay, so contraction of the abdominal muscle expels the air. Now you got the point. Okay, someone, I don't know who in the name person, during the yoga class, someone asked that question. What is gaseous exchange? Okay, but you could have asked Gemini. Okay, gaseous exchange means oxygen from the external air gets into the absorbed by the red blood cells. That is called diffusion. That process of entering the gas into the blood, that is called diffusion. In chemistry, people could understand more. You have chemistry background. Okay, so oxygen is a gas. Okay, carbon dioxide is a gas, and the both gases interchanges. That means from external air, oxygen enters into the red blood cell. The red blood cells carries the carbon dioxide from the cell, and that carbon dioxide eliminated at the alveoli. That's called gaseous exchange. Only a technical word, okay, not we could easily understand the change of gases, oxygen in, carbon dioxide out. Jamuna. Exchange of
Thank you,
atmospheric.
sir.
Yes. Exchange of atmospheric pressure to low intra-lung level. Is it done? Nasal cavity? Also? No. Here, the thing is, from the nasal cavity, then there is a sinus. Sinus means empty space. From there, windpipe to alveoli. Okay. Till that one, there is no stoppage. It is completely open. Like a balloon, if you blow it, that will increase. Okay. If without blowing, if you stretch the balloon out, automatically air goes inside. That is the function here. Okay. That the entire tract works, especially the expansion of the lungs creates the low pressure at the lung area, so that the external air quickly enters into the lungs through the nostrils. Anusaya. Got the point? Okay.
Got it, sir.
Any other question? Don't type if you
Sir,
are.
what causes sinus, sir?
Sinus, sinus is a empty space just in the nasal cavity, okay, where some fluid stayed due to that anatomical structure, some irregular structure. That fluid get infected. That infection passes through your nose and other area. That is called sinus. Okay, but there are many type of sinus here. Main reason is some unwanted substances stagnated in the sinus. Sinus means empty area. In empty area filled with some substance,
Bacteria.
bacteria. That bacteria also are there. That give infected with the other tissues, surrounding tissues.
In same cases for asthma also, sir.
Asthma is a different. That is allergic is okay. Asthma is a different issue. Sinus is a different issue. Asthma is allergic response. Okay, shallow breathing. You got yeah. Am I correct? Okay. That shallow breathing, so that muscle, you could see that the physiology of that respiration. I mean, the mechanism that the lung has to expand the maximum. Okay, that means many muscles. I have spoken about only two muscles. One is diaphragm, another one is external intercostal muscle. But as well as the pectoralis major and other many muscles, even the shoulder muscles works to expand the rib cage. Okay, those functions are reduced due to some reasons. Okay, allergic function. Okay, that causes the asthma.
Okay, sir.
Very shallow breathing would be there, and short breathing that may not expand to the maximum. Before expanding, that shrinking down.
Okay, sir. I'm an asthmatic patient, sir, so that's why I want to know about it. So I asked.
Okay,
Thank you,
understand.
sir.
I'm not a medical doctor. Please consult your medical doctor.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Just
Thank you.
physiology. Okay.
Hello, sir. This is Archana, sir. Sir, you told that in the lungs, the right one is having 3 lobes.
3 lobes. Yeah.
Yeah, and the left one is having 2 lobes.
Yeah.
In that case, is the sizes of these lobes?
No, relatively smaller in order to accommodate the heart. Heart slightly tilted left towards the left side. The apex of the heart. Yeah, that's what to accommodate. Naturally, it is there, but no big difference in quantity of inhaling air. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but only the small, but relatively small to the right.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Okay, I hope I given at least a few idea to understand the physiology of respiration. So, no audio. Someone say no audio. Is that correct?
No, sir. Clear only.
Yeah, some Satya PGDYN diploma in yoga, PG diploma in yoga and naturopathy. People are listening me.
Yes, we are listening.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, someone is typed like that. Okay. Satya, I don't know what is problem, but I cannot solve the problem from my end. Okay. Right. Can we move now? Move on to the next. According to your syllabus, next. I mean, I started with the. I mean, I would have started with the gastrointestinal tract, but I started with the respiratory. Too easy to understand. Now we move on to the gastrointestinal tract. in your syllabus, you can see alimentary canal or gastrointestinal tract. Tract means the passage of the food. Where we studied just before respiratory tract. That means the air traveling passage. Okay, here the food traveling passage. But here also you should understand what is digestion. You just think on that one. And finally, we can discuss on that particular. Okay, what is digestion? Okay, our main function of the this gastrointestinal tract is digestion process. Okay, but what is digestion? Think on that one. At the end of this topic, we'll discuss. Okay, here the almost in this area, you can see here. The air travels through the nasal cavity, but here the food enters through oral cavity. It's called mouth. Here, mouth mentioned as a mouth. Some books may be mentioned as the oral cavity. Okay, and oral cavity. And here there is ancillary organs works together and makes food to digest here. And the next in the continuation is here. Pharynx, we can use the pharynx. Pharynx, already I discussed no, in the respiratory system. Pharynx is common passage for the both air and food. After the pharynx, air enters into the larynx, but food never enters into the larynx due to closure of the epiglottis. Epiglottis, ullakkanu solluvaanga. Sometimes you can see that if you wide open your mouth, you can see that people used to call that in Tamil ulnak. Okay, that one is called epiglottis. Okay, that prevents the food to enter into the windpipe. Okay, here once it closed, that food enters into the another long tube. This tube is called esophagus. Okay, here we have in this esophagus located just behind the trachea. Trachea is a windpipe. No, just behind the trachea is located esophagus. Here is a windpipe. This one is called food pipe. Okay, the food travels to the esophagus and reaches to the stomach. This is the main organ here. This stomach continues with the small intestine. Okay, we'll discuss later on next slide. Small intestine. Then it becomes the large intestine, like this. Then the final two things here, that like contracting muscle, rectum and anus, they're finished. Okay, we're starting from the mouth to anus, you should call it alimentary canal. Okay, in this particular system, there are ancillary organs. Okay, ancillary and other organs also works here. The liver, pancreas, as well as the salivary glands. These all works together to digest the food. Okay, now we have to start from the mouth. A oral cavity. Here, the digestion starts mouth itself. Don't think digestion starts only the stomach or other further area. Okay, but the digestion starts at the mouth itself. Okay, what happens here? Mechanical breakdown. Mechanical breakdown done by the teeth. Okay, if the larger pieces of food is changes into the smaller pieces, right? That the teeth helps to breaks down the large pieces of the food into the smaller pieces. Okay, then also chemical breakdown in the early stages of chemical breakdown also takes place in the mouth. Okay, when it mixed the food mixed with the saliva. Okay. The saliva secreted by the salivary glands. Okay, there are three salivary glands. Here you can see sublingual gland, submandibular gland, parotid gland. There are, but more than 5,000 minor salivary glands. Remember, these three are the major salivary gland. Okay, they secrete saliva, substance called saliva, tasteless substance secreted by these salivary glands. Already I told you there are more than 5,000 minor glands. We are discussing about these three major salivary glands. Okay, saliva is one important substance involves in the early stages of digestion of the food. Okay, these salivary glands, lingual means this is called tongue. Okay? Just under, sub means down, under. Okay, under the tongue. Submandibular, sub means down. I mean under. This is called mandible bone. The lower jaw will be like this. It's cut off here, but Will be like this here. This jaw bone is called mandible bone. Okay? This mandible, under the mandible bone, it's called submandibular gland. Okay, this is just below or sub under the hair, parotid gland. Okay, this produces saliva. Okay. What happens here next? Okay, the saliva contains 98% of water, and that contains also electrolytes, mucus, and antibacterial compounds, and various enzymes. The main enzyme next, I'll tell you, that is called a very important enzyme. What is the main function of the saliva? Moistening the food, helping to create a smooth nature of the food, rough or hard, rigid pieces into the smooth thing. Those after that food mixed with the moistening of the saliva, that particular term they used to call bolus here. Okay, it can be, this bolus can be swallowed easily. If it is a rough like a biscuit, if you are not chew it, okay, if you cannot swallow it because the hardness of the biscuit. So that biscuit has to be softened. In order to soften the saliva moistening the food, and teeth helps to break down small pieces. So that food becomes the food bolus. This bolus easily can swallow the inside. Okay, and the saliva contains enzyme. I already told you that enzyme, important enzyme is called amylase. Okay, this amylase mainly works with the carbohydrate, and the complex carbohydrate nature is a starch. Okay, that breaks down into the maltose and dextrin. Maltose. That's on malt food. Sometime you would have heard the malt food. Okay, next stages of carbohydrate. Clear? So this whole function or digestive function takes place in the mouth. Okay, main primary function done by the saliva and the salivary glands, along with the mechanical function of the teeth and the tongue. Tongue helping out to making a movement of the food particles to into the teeth, so that and the teeth grind it into smaller pieces. Okay, once the bolus created, the next stage or the next continuation of the mouth down to the pharynx. Pharynx is the throat. It's a common passage for the both air and food. After that passes through the pharynx, that enters into the long tube called esophagus. Some people call this esophagus, no problem. There are two different pronunciation. The esophagus or esophagus, you can use both way. It's a muscular tube, okay, connecting throat to the throat is a pharynx, okay, throat to the stomach. Okay. Already I discussed this esophagus. I told you that earlier itself. Okay, behind the trachea, esophagus propels the food. Okay, this is one important thing you should know. Propels, that means pushing down the food to the stomach. Okay, even if you are standing upside down, when you are doing Sirasasana, even if you are eating something, the food never comes out. Okay, it goes inside to the in upward direction to the stomach. Okay, that particular rhythmic wave form of contraction, pushing the food to the that stomach. That movement is called peristalsis. Peristalsis. Okay, what is peristalsis? It's a wave form of movement of the esophagus. Sometimes this same peristalsis happens in the stomach also. Later I'll discuss. Okay, this is called peristalsis. This pushes the food into the stomach. Okay, this is the main function of the esophagus. You can see that pushes the food into the stomach. Exactly. We'll move on to the next structure. Stomach. Okay. Stomach is a bladder kind of structure. Okay, there are three important functions. The temporary storage of the food. Once the food enters into the esophagus as a bolus, That bolus passes through the esophagus, enters into the stomach. The stomach temporarily store the bolus. Nearly 2 hours, the bolus is stayed at the stomach, and mixing and break down the food. Okay, mixing and breakdown. Mixing in the sense mixing with the gastric juices. Okay, a little later I'll discuss what are the gastric juices here. Okay, mixing with the gastric juices secreted by the stomach itself. Okay, and hormones stomach itself, and digesting the food. Okay. Now we could, before we are entering, we should, if you are drawing this kind of stomach here, you should know the structure here. Okay, there are different layered structure. This stomach made up of the smooth muscle, like structure of cells are there. Okay, and which has different layers. See, in the outermost layer and the innermost layer, both are the epithelial tissue layering. Okay, but in the general anatomy here, you can see the lesser curvature. That means called lesser curvature, greater curvature. This area is body. This area, this dome-shaped area is called fundus. Okay, this opening here, cardia. Okay, these all things should, you should draw small way and to label these parts. Clear? Good. We move on to that. Next slide. Right. And the stomach has a number of secretions here. Okay. There are many hormones and some other gastric juices are produced inside the stomach in order to further breaks down of the food. The bolus enters into the stomach. Okay. Some important release from the stomach proteases, protein digesting enzyme, and pepsin. The name is called pepsin, but pepsinogen, sometimes you could have heard of pepsinogen, inactive substance, and hydrochloric acid. Okay, this hydrochloric acid also secreted by the stomach. The main function of the hydrochloric acid kills the and inhibits the bacteria inside, and as well as breaks down the food particle into smaller. Okay, there are number of bacteria that is called probacteria. Sometimes madam also is discuss somewhere probacteria. Okay, probacteria that helps out for our digestion process inside. Is the latest findings. Okay, these substances are produced or secreted inside the stomach. Okay, what happens once they mixed with the other substances secreted by the stomach? The stomach has a movement, contraction movement. Okay, that turns out the food into the smaller particles. When it turns, the shaking happens. Already the breakdown substances like hydrochloric acid and other enzymes mixing with the bolus that causes that bolus into a semi-solid or semi-digested food. Okay, that one is called chyme, semi-digested food or partially digested food. Okay, this also follows the peristalsis. Peristalsis is already in the waveform of movement. Okay, pushing movement. It's called peristalsis. Okay, right. So the partially digested food is called chyme. Okay, this chyme, partially digested food, after mixing with the hydrochloric acid, pepsin, and other enzymes and hormones produced by the stomach. But stomach has other function also. Mostly our nutrient absorption takes place in the small intestine. Okay, remember, most of the nutrients absorption takes place in the small intestine, but sometimes some absorption takes place in the stomach. Stomach absorbs water when body is dehydrated. That means on the other cellular level, we need more water. Dehydration is lack of water. At time when we are drinking, immediately that water enters into the stomach. Stomach itself absorbing the water. Okay, very important function during a dehydrated time. Okay, And medication time, the aspirin, amino acids, these also, absorbed by the stomach. Okay. And alcohol and beverages, is also absorbed by the stomach, or 20%, 10 to 20%, not all the nutrients inside. Okay. And the caffeine. So when you are drinking coffee, immediately we feel the refreshness, because the early stages of the digestion itself, stomach itself, that goes into the bloodstream, I guess, so that you can feel the refreshness. Okay. And a small extent water soluble vitamins. Okay. Fat soluble vitamins and water soluble vitamin A, D, E, K. These vitamins are absorbed in the stomach. Okay. Right now we move on to the small intestine. Okay. Small intestine chiefly involves in digestion and absorption. Already I told you what is absorption. Okay. The absorbing the nutrients, smaller particular like a carbohydrate, vitamin, water, or lipid or protein. These all substances, when we are eating, it is a complex in nature. When it passes through the digestive process from the mouth, they break down into the smaller particles in molecular level. Once it's a usable condition comes, okay, that small intestine absorbs those nutrients. Most of this digestion takes place in the small intestine. When pancreatic enzymes enters into the duodenum. Duodenum, it's at the beginning of the small intestine. And liver secretion is called bile. Bile is another substance secreted by the liver, and the lipid digestion done by the bile. These gastric juices are secreted or not secreted, received at this area. This area is called duodenum. Okay, there are three important areas of or division of the small intestine. The first beginning, this C-shaped area is called duodenum. Okay, where most of the other digestive substances from the liver will be here, and the pancreas here. This gives some or gives secrete some enzymes. Those are entering here. Those substances enters here and mixing with the chyme that comes out or peristalsis by the stomach, enters here and undergoes many chemical changes at this place. Okay. This place is called duodenum, that C-shaped place. Then they are entering into the midsection of the intestine, that is called jejunum. This midsection, the blue color. Okay. The jejunum connect to the final part of the small intestine, that is called ileum. Okay. This final section only, the most of the nutrients are absorbed. Okay. In this particular part contains villi, microvilli. Sometimes it's called microvilli, the smaller kind of tissue lining. That lining is absorbing all the nutrients, essential nutrients into the bloodstream. Okay. This microvilli is a finger-like a structure. I don't have that one today. A finger-like a structure like this. On that one, that outer layer is made up of, lined by the columnar epithelial tissue. Outer layer of the villi. Okay, so it is a thin line. So when the nutrients or that digested food travels by like this, that absorbed by the columnar tissue, epithelial tissue, and puts the nutrients into the bloodstream. These all function under area of the small intestine. Okay. Now you could see here, this is the liver and this is pancreas. Okay, these both produce both the organs, very important organ in digestion. These organs secretes number of substances, and this organ is pancreas also, glucagon, insulin. These all produced by this pancreas. This digestive juices enters here in the duodenum and mixing with the chyme. Chyme is a partial digestive food. And after this chemical changes and breaks down of the breaks down the food particle into smaller thing, enters into the jejunum, and the jejunum part again undergoes a lot of chemical changes, and food finally reaches to the ileum, where that nutrients are absorbed. Okay, the rest of the particles, food particles, okay, and enters into the large intestine. This is called large intestine. This large intestine they used to call colon. Sometime you can see colon. If it is upward positioned, it's called ascending colon. If it is like this, it's a transverse colon. Downward is a descending colon. Okay, this is called large intestine. Mostly, this large intestine absorbs waters. Mostly, this colon. Now, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, you are audible.
Slide I missed, madam. Stomach. Did you hear the stomach? From which slide? Could you someone help me? From which side I'm muted? I was muted.
Just now, sir. Just now only.
Okay.
You can continue.
Yeah. So here that large intestine is otherwise called colon. The upward position is called ascending colon. This transverse colon. The downward position is called descending colon. Okay? Mostly this colon absorbs the water. Okay? Good. There is one more structure here. It's called appendix. Okay. Some people have some problem appendicitis. Okay. The problem here only. Sometimes in Tamil they used to call kudal wall. Okay. But people does not know even now what is the main purpose of this appendicitis. There is some infection. That one is called appendicitis. Okay. Right. So we'll discuss in the next class, because I don't want to give you more of technical words. Okay. Liver has a separate class and the pancreas has a separate class and the salivary glands. We all together will talk about it in the next class. I'll explain it. Okay. Right. Someone asked about celiac disease. Maybe this intestinal problem here. Okay. Good. If any doubt, you can ask me now.
Hello.
Yes. Good.
Liver இது enzymes இது போதுன்னு stomach
liver lend or main அதோட பேர் வந்து bile, BILE. Okay, bile. Okay. That collected here. Next class I'll discuss. That collected here another bag called gallbladder. Okay. From the gallbladder that drops into the duodenum part of the what we call the small intestine. Okay, where this chyme means the partial digest food from the stomach enters here, and they mixed with that one that convert the complex lipid structure into the smaller part. Okay. Mainly involves in the fat digestion. Remember this word. Okay? Liver. Liver has a many function. Okay, one of the largest gland. Don't forget. Next class I'll tell you. Okay, liver has the many other function also. Okay, and this one destroys the worn out red blood cells. Okay, and iron formation, glycogen storage, many function. Okay, but I'm talking about the involvement of the liver into the digestion. Okay. Complete the set clock. Okay, we have another 15 more minutes. If anything, you can ask.
esophagus food pipe அது வந்து ஏர் பைப் ஃபுட் பைப் ரெண்டும் ஒண்ணா தானே சார் வரும்?
இல்ல இங்க இதுக்கு முன்னாடி நான் அந்த பிக்சர் காட்டுறேன் உங்களுக்கு. Okay, this is the esophagus just behind the air pipe, wind pipe, behind the wind pipe. Okay, so in this part that wind pipe begins. Okay, able to say, but behind this wind pipe there is this esophagus, that's a food pipe. Okay, there is one organ here that is called epiglottis in this portion. Okay, at the end of the pharynx. Okay, that when you are swallowing the food from here, immediately that closes the windpipe. That food cannot enter into the windpipe. That is called Tamil ullakku popping. If you wide open your mouth.
Okay.
Yeah, that closes the windpipe so that the food enters only into the esophagus. Okay, this is here, that will close it.
பட் எப்பவுமே வின் பைப்ல வந்து ஃபுட் பைப் ஒன்னு ஜாயின் ஆகுது முதல்ல
சொல்றாங்க if it happens you'll get choked. Food enter mistakenly sometimes some other reflexes when you're talking while eating, no? Sometimes the food enters into the windpipe, that's what you get the choking.
Okay.
But food should not enter into, must not enter into the windpipe. Okay, that will stop the airflow, so breathing will be stopped. Very serious case, choking.
Okay. இல்ல அதனால தான் ரெண்டு ஒண்ணா இருக்கனால அது மாதிரி choke ஆகிக்குது.
I'll show. No, ரெண்டு ஒண்ணா இருக்காது. That is a different structure, this one different structure. I'll show you at the end of this session.
You have to write or?
Yes, here only in MSc they have only generalized overall topic, okay, overview topic, but not breakdown. But some smaller classes they have a function of the mouth and salivary glands separately. They'll ask the function of the stomach separately. They'll ask the function to draw this diagram, what you able to see it, okay, but not in this way, but little your own way, okay. But to mention all these all the organs involved in here, right from the mouth to anus, okay, under different parts, of this small intestine.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir, when we breathe through the mouth, what happens to the air, sir?
Okay, I'll tell you here again. Okay, this is the nostril. Able to see that cursor, my cursor in screen?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Who I'm talking about. Okay, okay. This is the oral cavity. Okay, so above that we have nasal cavity here. Okay, that when your air comes here, this is the common passage for both air and food. Okay, pharynx, that area called pharynx, throat. Once the food enters into the throat, immediately we have natural automatic reflex. Okay, that reflex simulate the epiglottis. That epiglottis closes here this windpipe. Automatically the food enters only into the esophagus, not into the windpipe. Okay, here you can find the windpipe. There's another person also asked that question here, right? So food never enters into the windpipe. Windpipe just in front of this esophagus located. Clear? When you are breathing, when you are not swallow anything, automatically this portion from the nostril and this sinus and pharynx and here is called this larynx always keep open. Okay, the air automatically goes, never close anywhere. Okay, air comes here, goes here, automatically goes here, and the lungs here, and all the process happens. When you are trying to swallow something, automatically the air passage is closed by the epiglottis, so the food can enter only into the esophagus. Sometime when you are talking, the larynx used and the vocal cord works means that there must be some air regulations. Okay, the time that the air passage open, talking and eating cannot be done together. Okay, sometimes mistakenly that enters into the windpipe, so that you get the choking.
Thank you, sir.
Right. I hope you do understand. Okay, but now what I suggest you, keep on teaching like that, like this smaller. So many are already familiarized with this particular subject. They are somehow they can manage it. Okay, and the rest of you, what I suggest you go and find only the functions of the liver. Okay, secretion I already told you, bile. Okay, function will be like a theoretical topic. Okay, what it does and the function of the pancreas. Clear? Like that you could prepare yourself, so that we need to cover, we no need to cover entire syllabus, but certain things we cannot. These things I can overall idea we can give you, as time is very restrained with the time. Rest of the things you have to prepare yourself, right? Finally we'll go into on one more I wanted to show you the syllabus, then we can make it. Any more doubts?
So functions of liver and pancreas மட்டுமா sir?
Pancreas functions. Yeah, this all related to this what we call a digestive system. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, already I told you liver has many function. Okay, but related to digestion, what all the function involves here? Okay.
Okay. Related to digestion.
Yeah, but they may not ask a separate question. Okay, what are the function of the functions of the liver? They may not ask. Okay, if they ask, you should write. General function I told you. Okay, that secretes by bile. Bile is another substance involves in the lipid digestion.
Okay, sir.
Any other doubt?
Sir, when is the next session?
The next session 2 o'clock only, but today we'll complete at 12 o'clock. Okay, first session.
சார் ஈவினிங் செக்ஷன் நேத்ரோபதி எல்லாம் யூடியூப்ல வராதா சார்?
அது
நான் மார்னிங் டவுட்னா பார்க்க முடியுது.
கூகுள் மீட்ல போடுறோம். அதுல வந்து ரெக்கார்டிங் ஃபெசிலிட்டிஸ் எங்களுக்கு ஆஃபர் பண்ணல. இது வந்து சப்ஸ்கிரைப் பண்ணிருக்கோம். அதனால ரெக்கார்டிங் ஃபெசிலிட்டிஸ் ஆஃபர் பண்றாங்க. லைவ் ஸ்ட்ரீமிங் ஆஃபர் பண்றாங்க. ப்ராப்ளம் வந்து அதுல வந்து எங்களுக்கு ஃப்ரீ வெர்ஷன் நம்பர் ஆஃப் ஸ்டூடண்ட்ஸ் கம்மி ஆயிடுவாங்க இல்லையா? அதுல ஒரு 15 to 20 people தான் இருக்காங்க.
ரொம்ப நெட் வந்து என்னன்னு தெரியல, ஒழுங்கா கேட்க மாட்டேங்குது. வாய்ஸ் ரொம்ப பிரேக்
ஈவன் நானுமே சர்ச் பண்ணி பார்த்தேன் சார், நேச்சுரோபதி டாபிக் இருக்கா இன்னைக்கு மார்னிங் அவைலபிளா இருந்த. நேத்து மார்னிங்
நேத்து ரொம்ப ப்ராப்ளமா இருந்தது எங்களுக்குலாம் நெட்ல கொஞ்சம் விசிபிளா வரதுக்கும். சோ யூடியூப்ல இருக்கும்போது ரொம்ப ஈஸியா, இப்ப ஏதாவது டவுட் வந்ததுன்னா எங்களால யூடியூப்ல போய் செக் பண்ண முடியும்.
பாத்துக்கலாம், புரியுது. பட் அதுக்காக தான் நாங்க எல்லாரும் ஒரே குரூப்பா போட்டு எடுத்தது. கூகுள் மீட்ல அசிஸ்டா எங்களுக்கு வந்து அந்த ஃபெசிலிட்டிஸ் ஆஃபர் பண்ணல. நாங்க வேற பெய்ட் வெர்ஷனுக்கு போறதுக்கு ட்ரை பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கோம். பட் தேர் ஆர் சம் கன்ஸ்ட்ரெயின்ட் ஃபார் us. We are unable to make it. Okay, these would not.
Otherwise அந்த PPT ஆவது கிடைச்சா கொஞ்சம் பெட்டரா இருக்கும் சார்.
அத வேணா கேட்டு பாக்குறேன். அது வந்து உங்களுக்கு ஷேர் பண்றேன்.
Okay sir. Thank you sir.
Right, someone asked yesterday about the assignment I have given you in some